Okay, that's 3 minutes past. So let's kick off the session. Guys, thanks so much for joining. My name is David Tweedale. I'm a partner account manager here at Mimecast, and I have the privilege of managing the relationship between Mimecast and our partners, Shore International, who look after our customers in the Channel Islands and other offshore regions. And it's fantastic to be here with you today. On the session with me, I have Callum Noad, who's one of our senior sales engineers and a specialist in Mimecast Zone 3 technologies. Now, just to give you a quick overview of the format of today's session, I'm going to pass over to Callum in just a moment, and he will talk for sort of 40 to 45 minutes about what Zone 3 means to Mimecast and our customers. And we'll start actually by introducing what the rest of our zones are, so you're aware of what the overall story is, and then we'll hone in on Zone 3 and the problems that our customers talk to us about with regards to protecting their brand, their domains, and their reputations that they've worked so hard to build. And then specifically, we'll talk about two technologies that Mimecast has developed, one called Dmarc Analyzer and the second called Brand Exploit Protect, and how these two services can help you to protect your brand. After that, you're welcome to drop off. Callum and I will stay on the session all the way into the hour, so we'll stay until 11 o'clock. So if there are questions that you want to ask, then at that point, we'll open up the chat box, and you can feel free to pop yourselves on mute and ask any questions that you have. When I finish the session, I'll confirm what the next actions are and what you can do if you do need any further information. But without further ado, I'm happy to pass over to Callum, who will walk you through Mimecast Zone 3 beyond your perimeter technologies. Thanks, Callum.
Lovely. Thank you very much, David. All right, cool. So yeah, I'll go into Zone 3 briefly now to kind of give you the big picture on what all of the zones mean, and then obviously specify Zone 3 today. Lovely. So Zone 3 is a part of Mimecast, what we call Email Security 3.0 Vision, which puts protection into obviously 3 different zones. So Zone 1 is the perimeter, which is the email gateway. That's our bread and butter, anti-spam, anti-phishing, and then the real targeted stuff like impersonations and bad files as well. Zone 2 is inside the organization. So this includes things like internal email protect and our awareness training. Attackers know that the Zone 1 and the perimeter now exists for a lot of people. They can actually check what perimeter people have by just using something like MX Toolbox. So they turn their attention to hacking people, compromising their accounts and spreading their malicious wares within. But Zone 3 is beyond this perimeter, so not within your organization at all, or not even targeting your organization's infrastructure, but more so your brand and people's perception of you. So if I was to rob a bank wearing a David face mask, he won't know about that until I've stolen a load of money and then moved to a very, very sunny country somewhere. But he still doesn't want me to do that. He still wants to be able to prohibit me from wearing his face mask whilst robbing this bank. So these products at Zone 3 kind of prohibit those digital equivalent crimes. Fake websites looking like the real deal to steal money or credentials whilst pretending to be a legitimate business. And then people also committing identity fraud over email, using your exact domain in doing so. So that's how we stop those bad guys. So that's what we're looking into today, the Zone 3 elements. The reason Mimecast have kind of done this whole versions 1, 2, and 3 and now have these zones is just because of how these attacks have developed over time and how Mimecast has had to move forward with those attacks. So we've always kind of kept up with this, and we've always been able to develop technologies to help people fight back. So version 1 is to kind of fight against the spams and virus emails that we would see back in 1998. So Mimecast became a company in 2003. So that was our first kind of what we started doing, because that was the only threat that was really prevalent at the time. Obviously, there wasn't things like you didn't have a lot of fake websites back in 1998. You didn't have these brand-based attacks just because they had this much easier method, which was just spray and pray, forget about it, send a load of emails to see what happens. Then version 2 was so the advanced stuff. So we're basically a strong development on that first zone. So the impersonations, bad files, bad links, things you're probably already very familiar with. So that we introduced that in around 2014. That's when that was a huge problem. Some of those elements we were first to market with as well. So again, Mimecast ahead of the punch. And then where we are today with version 3. So introducing that a couple of years back now in 2019, late 2019, we got the technologies together. So still fairly new. But this is kind of where we see attackers turn their focus to. This is the kind of, I guess, the emerging technology equivalent in the attacker world. So again, bring it back to what I mentioned. As an attacker, I'm aware that a company is using a secure email gateway, but I know that an organization's customers aren't, or they're not using anything kind of enterprise grade. So that's where I'm going to strike. I'm going to strike the customers. Those customers, then they're not trained to deal with those things either. Bringing it back to one of the earlier zones, we have awareness training for organizations. But I know that, just your everyday consumer, they're not going through those training exercises. They're not familiar with what an attack looks like. They don't know that I can mix, Russian peas into a domain to look like PayPal.com and get them to log in there. They're not aware, and I know that. So that's what we kind of, as an attacker, that's what you go after. So these types of attacks fall into two main categories. Domain spoofing, where attackers send emails by spoofing your owned domains. Even with SPF and DKIM, that is still very possible. And then brand exploits, where an attacker will mimic your website. So likely a login page to then steal some credentials from a user using the brand that they're familiar with as bait. And these attacks are escalating rapidly, and it's for all the reasons I gave earlier, but we've kind of collected these numbers over the past 12 months to kind of see for ourselves that, yes, it is absolutely rising. And as you would completely expect, absolutely no shock whatsoever that we noticed a huge rise within the last 12 months. As we've moved into more and more of an online world over the past year, more people are doing more online than they've ever had to do before, and it's some of it's people that haven't ever really lived in that world before. If you imagine a lot of vulnerable people who have had to go online for a lot more than they've ever done before, like grandparents and so on. I know my own grandparents wouldn't have actually done that much on a computer before, so for them having to slowly move into this world is somewhat worrying, that these attacks are out there and there has been a huge increase on them. So these attacks are, they're not attacking you, they're not attacking your infrastructure, but this is obviously still a huge problem because these attacks can have a devastating effect on brand reputation that's taken years, if not decades, to build. People see a logo, they have that immediate trust, and if that trust gets broken, that can be damaging. So I don't know how many of you have received, text messages from kind of like fake delivery companies, or even a text message from someone impersonating Amazon trying to get you to follow a link because there's an outstanding payment or there's a delivery we can get to you that needs some money to unlock it or something like that. But the main thing you remember from those attacks is the brand that was used as bait. So you get a lot of those over. We saw a lot of those over Christmas, but to be honest, I keep on getting one every few days or so. So my number's on some kind of list somewhere. But I remember the brand that's being used rather than the attack surrounding it. And other people have that mindset as well, so they just immediately associate attack with brand. They're really easy for attackers to create and execute as well. It's really simple for me to buy a domain and then just copy some web contents onto it to look like someone else's. But it's really hard to detect and shut that down. Because it's not attacking someone's infrastructure, how do you find those fake websites? And how do you find them before someone's already been affected, before someone's already given a password away or lost some money? So today is all about kind of addressing this type of phishing at the source before anything can be executed. It might not be targeting you today, but it might do tomorrow or further down the line. So it's about proactive prevention rather than just defensive. And most traditional defenses aren't designed to find those attacks beyond the perimeter, what we call threat hunting in the wild. to put a funny name to it. So we're going to start off with the domain spoofing side of things today. So looking into Dmarc Analyzer. So even customers who kind of utilize SPF and DKIM are susceptible to domain spoofing over email without a strong Dmarc policy. So enabling a strong Dmarc policy is a great idea, but it comes with a small amount of risk. Dmarc Analyzer is about mitigating that risk, helping an organization understand what they need to do in able to turn on a strong Dmarc policy and protect their domain from being spoofed. The huge risk is if you turn on a strong Dmarc policy instantaneously, there is going to be an impact on email deliverability. Emails might not make it to their recipient, and that's bad news for everyone. You pay for those third-party sending platforms to send mass emails for you. They're not being received. It's a waste of money. And if you've got more important things going on, like invoices being sent out from an automated platform, if you even use CRM systems to send out those kind of things, they're not able to send on your behalf either. You're not making money. So it's about not breaking those platforms, not stopping your workflows. So protecting against domain spoofing is about understanding who is sending email from your domains. So you can differentiate between legitimate use and fraudulent senders. Dmarc, or what it stands for, domain-based message authentication reporting and conformance. I don't expect anyone to remember that the first time they hear it, and there's not going to be a quiz at the end. But that's the system for validating that an email has come from a legitimate source. It helps you protect your domains from being used by malicious actors that are impersonating your brand by sending an email that looks like it's come from your organization. And importantly, it just helps you ensure that legitimate email is not being blocked as well. So it comes back to, we're not trying to cripple a man environment. If you wanted to get an idea of kind of like how easy it is to do that kind of crime as well, just type into YouTube when you've got kind of like 5-10 minutes spare, send a spoofed email using like an SMTP platform. So SMTP, spoofed email, something like that. You will find countless how-to videos. And it tells you how to do things like kind of use Telnet to send commands to like a 10minutemail.com platform. So web-based temporary email platform and Telnet, which are two things that most people have got access to. And to be honest, it's instructional, so it's a how-to. So if you don't really know how to use them, follow the instructions and you can do what you want. It's a really, really easy process. So with Dmarc Tools, you can monitor your domains to get visibility into who is sending emails on your behalf. So you can actually see if people are out there and doing that kind of nasty business. But this is really kind of built to identify legitimate third-party senders like your CRM tools and your marketing automation tools to see what those guys are doing. What you can then do is kind of go through a couple of kind of changes with that organization to essentially digitally authorize them to continue. So they might already be using SPF and DKIM, but they need to be doing it right. There's a couple of exploits between those technologies. So there's a couple of changes within them that you need to make with those third parties. And again, Dmarc Analyzer will kind of take you through what those changes are and what it is that you need to do with them to enable them to keep on sending on your behalf. And once you've made those changes, once you've gone through and verified that they're doing everything right, they're using DKIM correctly, SPF is absolutely perfect, then you've got full control over who uses your domain. You can then stop the bad guys whilst enabling the good guys. So enforcing Dmarc can be a lengthy process, especially if you've got a lot of sending domains as well. So we understand that an organization might have more than one domain they send email from if there's different areas of the business doing different things. Enforcement can be done on a continuum to ensure that you're not rejecting legitimate email in the process. A policy of none, what we see on the screen, is used for monitoring for that visibility, but where no action is taken to stop email from being delivered. So that's how we start finding out who does what without breaking everything. So it's our first step. Let's get this turned on. Let's start this Dmarc journey, but let's not ruin the mail environment. There is somewhat of a misconception. I think it is now slowly going away as Dmarc becomes more popular, but people think just kind of having anything to do with Dmarc is going to cripple their environment somehow. And that thought process has come from somewhere, but with that none policy, it's just not necessarily true. A policy of quarantine is used to start managing what emails make it into a recipient mailbox. So if an email fails a Dmarc check, it will be classified as spam. And that's by the recipient as well. So the recipient will see that an email has failed Dmarc. They'll see what the real domain wants them to do with that email, and then they'll take the action. So they then see that you've listed it as quarantine, and they put it into a quarantine mailbox. So Mimecast held queue, a junk folder, something like that. And the final step is reject. That's what it says on the tin. If someone sends an email on your behalf and they're not using DKIM correctly, they're not using SPF correctly, they have out and out failed, and you haven't digitally authorized them to send on your behalf, the recipient will reject that email. And that's based on your the policy that you select from these three in publishing your DNS. The recipient will see what you've published and then go, right, I can see that someone has sent an email on this company's behalf, it's failed Dmarc, and that company want me to reject it. Job done. And then after that, after we've got to reject, there is then ongoing monitoring to ensure kind of a full visibility of all legitimate or fraudulent use of your domains. And there's a really, really kind of deep level of intel as to what we can get out of that as well. So we can actually, with Dmarc Analyzer, we can see the contents of some of those Dmarc failing emails. So we can actually see, well, who's spamming, or who's spoofing who, what are they saying, what are they trying to achieve, and how can I use that for my overall awareness piece. And that's the kind of Dmarc journey to get this kind of implemented up to a full standard, which is what we're kind of seeing being requested more and more. So Mimecast has helped organizations tackle domain spoofing as an email sender and receiver. So on the inbound route, Mimecast's email gateway with targeted threat protection detects imposter emails, while Dmarc enforcement ensures you can distinguish between legitimate and fraudulent senders, and quarantine or reject mail from all unauthenticated sources. As an email sender, Mimecast Dmarc Analyzer delivers the visibility and controls needed to protect customers, protect you guys from people spoofing your domain, people sending emails to your customers and your supply chain and people you deal with on a day-to-day basis for malicious gain. So how does Dmarc Analyzer help? So there's a, in short, we simplify that Dmarc enforcement. I appreciate there's been a lot of, if it's first kind of time looking into this stuff, there's a lot to Dmarc, and it can look a bit daunting on the surface, but we really, really simplify that. We take that whole process and we make it kind of easy. We've got an intuitive platform which kind of puts it right in front of you in a nice consumable way, so you understand, right, this person sends on my behalf, here's exactly what I need to do about it, who's up next? And then once you've done that, we're kind of complete. We're moving through the project. It gives you full visibility and governance across all email channels. We mitigate the risk of disruption from deploying Dmarc as well, so that risk that I mentioned earlier. We offer encrypted forensic reports, so that's looking into the contents of some of these Dmarc failing emails. We offer real-time reports and monitoring on all of that as well, and we've got kind of different service offerings available to that as well. So here's a quick screenshot of what it looks like, and kind of some of the, what it might look like for you guys utilizing it. Natively, Dmarc reports are just XML files. So that's been a huge problem in the past for people trying to implement Dmarc. They turn it on and suddenly they receive thousands and thousands of these XML files. And they're just lines and lines of text. They make it really, really unclear as to, well, who is doing what and what can I do about that? But that's what Dmarc Analyzer does. We take the data, we make it consumable for humans, group together sending sources, types of failures, and we include tools and information to understand what does this mean and what can I do. So Dmarc Analyzer is trusted by, that's probably gone over the 30,000 organization mark now. I think that number might be slightly out of date, but that's around the globe to kind of confidently enforce and monitor Dmarc compliance. Both small and large organizations enjoy the simplicity, the guidance, and the services that kind of are associated with Dmarc Analyzer. And finally, before we move on to the brand exploit stuff, this is some data collected from Farsight, the DNS data solution people, and it just highlights the constant growth and adoption of Dmarc. So from the data being presented by Farsight, we can see that Dmarc is now appearing more and more and more in people's DNS records each year, and it's for all the reasons I've taken you guys through today. Obviously, this isn't it doesn't monitor every single domain on the internet. That would be impossible. Farsight just takes a huge and ever-growing data set of domains and then picks up on things like Dmarc records in their DNS. So even though their database grows to about 100,000 domains a week or something like that, but even with that, we're still able to see real growth in terms of Dmarc, real fast growth in terms of where we're seeing that. So really, really important at the moment. Dmarc is becoming. So that's Dmarc and Dmarc Analyzer. Like I say, at the end, there will be a Q&A session. So if you've got any questions on what I've taken you through today, absolutely let me know. If you guys are interested in a demo of Dmarc Analyzer, absolutely get in touch with your Sure account managers, and we can all get that arranged with someone like me at Mimecast to take you through the platform as well as just the technology from today. But next part of today's webinar is more so geared towards web phishing and protecting your online presence and wider brand. So the brand is important because not only is it what makes a memorable impression on consumers, but it allows your customers and clients to know what to expect from your company. So yeah, this is someone accessing a website that looks exactly like yours on a domain which looks potentially exactly like yours from the naked eye as well. So what I mentioned earlier, it's Russian peas in PayPal.com. It's something like that. People aren't looking closely enough. They won't notice they're not on a legitimate website, especially if they've accessed that website through something like a bogus ad, a comment section on a website, through personal emails, or just anywhere that a link can be accessed from that isn't just typed perfectly into the web browser themselves. So attackers' goals remain pretty consistent, but how they accomplish these goals changes and evolves constantly. That brings it right back to early on in the presentation where we have the kind of timelines and years and so on. Attackers, they're always trying to get money, essentially. It's largely always the motivator for these things, but it's just different ways to now do that. So as brands' digital transformation interactions rise, so does the potential impact and likelihood of digital risk. Data has become the most valuable commodity in the world for companies of every size and in every geographical market. Because data is highly valued by businesses, it's also valuable to cyber criminals who use very creative means to steal it. They're always coming up with something else. People conducting business transactions online expect enterprises to have effective countermeasures against these types of cyber attacks. Organizations that are unable to respond quickly to threats beyond their perimeter will not be able to protect their customers. And that's not only damaging to the customer themselves, but also to an organization's brand and the perception around that brand. So like I mentioned, a bogus website can be a like-for-like rip of yours. Again, that's something that's pretty simple to do as well. There's YouTube tutorials how to do that one as well. YouTube really is a great encyclopedia of how to do bad things. all under the guise of it's educational. But yeah, the domains they use as well can read the exact same because they can employ characters from other alphabets. So Russian P's, things from the Greek alphabet, things from a whole kind of world of different alphabets can be used. And even though it's a completely different domain, it looks the exact same. No one can tell the difference. Attackers can also attain that little padlock as well, and users can see the HTTPS on the URLs itself. And there's a misconception that HTTPS always means it's safe. It's not. I can go and get one of those padlocks for a few quid now. They're really, really achievable. I don't have to be anyone to associate that with my domain. Attackers also use subdomains. That's a huge one at the moment. Bitflips, typo squats. There's a whole range of methods to register a domain and deploy a lookalike website on it, all with the intention of tricking customers who fall into that trap. I think we saw this slide earlier, actually, just again bringing it back to COVID has stimulated that. So I won't spend too much time here actually being that this one has kind of already been largely talked about, but we've seen more people go online. So it's a growing problem in the last year. We're pretty familiar with the various methods that are available to protect end users. The problem is that the bad guys also know what they are, and they can really, really easily bypass them with something like a man-in-the-middle attack. Ultimately, attackers will use any and all options to get people to a phishing site to steal credentials, personal information, or money. Your customers, however, are not security experts. They will not be expecting those kinds of attacks. They might not even have awareness that that can happen. So we can't rely on them to identify those websites themselves. Kind of thinking about people that have been going online in the last year. My granddad himself now has an iPhone, an iMac, and an iPad. He's on the Apple website for something. He is using them to go online and again, just spend his retirement funds. But we want to make sure they're being spent in the right places. And it's great to see him get on board with technology. And I'm assuming that there are people in the same boat as him, which are doing the exact same thing. But he isn't going to be aware of like Russian P's in the domain. That's just not a part of his world. It hasn't been before. So why would it be now? But that's, again, a real kind of story about these threats. So protecting people like that against these exploits requires sophisticated tools designed specifically to identify those attack sources, which is the destination pages that they are trying to lure people into. So a typical phishing attack starts with the attacker identifying their target. They'll then build a phishing site using cloned content from the targeted website or by setting up a lookalike page on a lookalike domain. Existing security tools will only see this type of attack once it's live and once it's started to send phishing emails. Those emails usually target end users, which means that you may never see those attacks until someone reports it. It's not going to come through someone's email gateway if we're just emailing people on Freemail accounts or something like that. They have to report that sort of thing first because it's not coming through something like Mimecast. At this stage, the damage has already been done. It's too late. The emails are in people's mailboxes. People are able to then click on that link. People are then on those websites, and it's all very, very bad. So the desire is to shift left on this diagram and catch the attack before it becomes a threat. Identify a domain before it has the chance to phish anyone. So pick up on a website before they've even posted anything on it. We get eyes on first thing, and as soon as they move, as soon as it looks like they're going to do something bad with it, we're in there. So that's the problem. So what do we actually do? How does Mimecast actually help people with this issue, and what is Brand Exploit Protect? Mimecast Brand Exploit Protect focuses on early proactive detection, specifically designed to find and stop phishing attacks at their earliest stages. It comprises 3 core elements that together form a very formidable proactive approach to phishing detection and prevention. So without getting too massively technical at the moment, the first part of this is the proactive intelligence. Highly targeted scanning using artificial intelligence and machine learning to rapidly identify the use of lookalike domains designed to deceive people and steal money or data. Then we have a threat detection agent, which uncovers instances where your website has been scraped or cloned and hosted on another domain. So again, the YouTube videos, how to scrape a website, this would detect that kind of activity, would stop it. And remediation, ensuring you can take effective and immediate action to stop the attack when we notice it and minimize any damage caused. We do also have some other threat mitigating features available for when we're working on taking down a website as well, for just extra layers of protection against for customers. So there are a few companies in the world which do similar things in terms of the domain detection, but we differentiate ourselves based on maturity level, of which we sit at level 3. Level 1 is anything to return the word example in it, but it has to be that word example. Can't be example with a Russian P, can't have a Greek A, can't have anything like that. Has to be example. So not much room for maneuver. Level 2 is an extension on that, which includes exceptions. So if you had attacks from example which included example-user or example-login, or there was a bit flip, the E and the I changed round, all the examples I just gave, you've noticed those and you want to kind of include it within those exceptions, put them into the platform and it will also look for those. But again, it's static, rule-based, won't find anything that isn't what it hasn't been told to look for already. So this is where we kind of come in and challenge that. So our goal when it comes to monitoring domains is that we want no limits, no rules, no boundaries. So for Mimecast, you give us the brand name and we'll go off and find anything remotely similar. So that's things using multiple character manipulation, IDNs. So again, to keep on mentioning them, those Russian Ps, or any random additional letters added. It's not only Russian Ps, I should add. There's tons of different ways you can do it. We even find subdomains which other competitors have failed to do so in the past. That's why I mentioned earlier that that's actually becoming quite big at the moment, is because there aren't many platforms that can detect a subdomain being used for this type of attack, but we can. We are the differentiator there. That gives us a huge coverage, much larger coverage than kind of these other organizations which are doing things like web crawling. Because we're AI and machine learning based, we're not fussed if we have a lot being monitored all the time. When we pick up a domain, we start gathering all the information from it. DNS info, who is info, and we compare it to what we've seen in the past. And we've got some other kind of identifiers in there as well. There's a lot which goes into making a detection and determining that this is a bad domain. Everything from that point onward is essentially automated. Our SOC team gets alerted, we investigate further from there, the customer gets alerted, and we can move on it. Our web agent, which has been given a nice code name of Casper, has a special ability to hide itself from plain sight. It does that by doing two things. So firstly, when it's on the website or a local machine, it stays dormant. Reason being is that attackers are very, very lazy. They will use automated tools purchased on the dark web or a Linux command line, which again will be highlighted in a YouTube video and a how-to scrape a website. Those tools download all the visible assets from a website to a local machine. What the attacker will then do is run those assets through Wireshark or something like that to see, well, what's sending out traffic? Is anything acting as a beacon? Have I stolen anything which is going to give the game away? And if there is anything acting as a beacon, they get ripped. They get removed and the attacker uploads the website without the things that were giving the game away. But we stay offline during that whole process. So when the website does get re-uploaded to a website, that's when our agent comes to life and beacons back to Mimecast and says, I've been stolen. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Something's happened here. And that is, again, when our SOC team gets involved and can take the website down. If content has been scraped and published online in that way, it is very, very likely an attack. There are not really many or any reasons as to why I would do that legitimately. The beacon itself, once it does come to life, is obfuscated as well, to the point that an attacker wouldn't be able to tell what this is or what it's doing, what it's sending or who it's sending to. And the agent itself is just very, very standard, nondescript, unique JavaScript code. And when you're copying a website, you want it to function the exact same way as it normally does, because no one's going to fall for a website that does something different. If I hover my mouse over something, does the right action take place? Does the right thing drop down, or does some random rubbish happen? If I'm trying to trick someone into giving a password or money, I need the website to be perfect. And as an attacker, I'm not in the business of just taking out random JavaScript codes because I don't want to compromise my own mission. So the takedowns themselves and how we do them. Over the years, Mimecast has built relationships with all of these registrars, hosting providers, and registries worldwide, to the point that we have dedicated APIs with them. I think we have around 2,000 APIs with those organizations at the moment. What we essentially do is collect the right data to ensure that there is little to no investigation required on the authority side. And because we have the APIs, we can push that data to be exactly where it needs to go, and then those guys can just click the big red button and take a website down. So we've already got that trust relationship with the people that can just click remove. They've already got the channel open to receive the intel from us, which they can just work from immediately. And our systems keep on gathering intel from those websites and domains as well. We keep the histories, so we're able to tell a full story to these organizations. So if a website makes a change, if they do some, if they make some changes to stay elusive, there's lots of techniques you can do to stay elusive when you're doing these kinds of attacks. But we kind of grab all of that intel. We can detect when those changes take place. We know what those methods are, and we can use that to tell our story. And that again assists us in having the website removed. Attackers assist us in getting their attacks taken down because they don't know that we're looking at this stuff. And whilst we're doing all of that, we also populate the data to Google, Microsoft, antivirus engines, web extensions, and we're a part of VirusTotal as well. So once we flag a phishing domain, within minutes, it gets populated to all of those endpoints. And then that ensures that it's blocked for access whilst we work on a takedown in the background. So if I use Google Safe Browsing, I can't get to a phishing website just because Mimecast has flagged it as bad. The average takedown time is around 3 hours as well. So I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've had to have a website removed or taken down for you. But yeah, let me know if you have, and let me know what that process was. You know, drop it into the chat or something like that. Just how long did that take? Because we're kind of we don't see anyone that has a process like this. So here's a bit of a summary of what Mimecast is achieving with Brand Exploit Protect. Early detection. We're one step ahead of the attacker, and we can see his attack before it gets launched. We can see when a domain is purchased, which is similar, which is going to be used for an attack. We get eyes on from before day one. Proactive approach. While we have superior technology, we always have an analyst going over any findings to ensure if it's malicious. We aren't going to bother you, the customer, unless there is a high chance of malicious activity. We do have a human element of this platform as well. This is not a point, aim, and shoot platform where we're just going to go and willy-nilly take websites down and get you guys into trouble. That's the last thing we want to do. And then swift response. We detect, react, and then eliminate. We make sure you guys are safe, we make sure your customers are safe, and we make sure that everyone's kind of within a safe environment. So our technology is a better and easy way to show these risks. We can actually offer a kind of a report on that as well, to kind of show you kind of already what those risks might be. So if you do have a concern, there might be something we can do to present back to you so we can let you know what that risk is. Something else which is great about this platform is we've never had a false positive takedown request. We have never asked someone to take a website down for them to say no. We do not just alert the registrar about a phishing attack, but also many other entities as well. So that's, again, bringing it back to the endpoint security vendors, browser developers, and so on, just to make sure that there is enough protection for customers to prevent someone from reaching it. While the customer has, while you guys have access to a dashboard, you don't need to do anything proactively. You don't need to react to anything yourselves. Everything is done by our SOC team. It is all fully automated, and there's plenty we can do for you. And being a part of the Mimecast portfolio allows you guys to kind of consolidate resources and efforts and integrate these layers in with each other. So there are little areas of these platforms that link up with your original Mimecast platform. So there are things you can change within Mimecast from Brand Exploit Protect. If you detect a domain as a phishing domain, we can honor that in Mimecast for you. We can block that domain from sending emails to your users whilst we take it down in the background. So just before we get onto the Q&A, here's just a few, a couple of kind of quotes from existing customers. This demonstrates the broader coverage of our service. We detect attacks that other services don't see, and we detect attacks faster to deliver better and more proactive protection. But guys, that is that's all from me. So what I'm going to do now, we'll open the floor up to a bit of Q&A.
Thanks, Callum, and guys, thanks so much for your time and attention today. Just before we move over to taking any questions from the audience, just a quick note on what to do next and a bit of a summary from me. So we looked at two things today, kind of setting the context of what Mimecast calls Email Security 3.0, and we spoke about two technologies. One that helps you to correctly protect the domains that you own with the correct enforcement of Dmarc, and that service called Dmarc Analyzer. And the second was how we can help you protect yourselves from the risks that domains that you don't own but may look very similar to yours may pose your business. And that's a service called Brand Exploit Protect. If either of those services are something that you'd like to learn more about, see a demo of, or see some pricing, or just have an interaction with the Mimecast team and the Shore team, then there's a couple of things that you can do. If you know you're a Shore account director, so if you've already got a contact at Shore, then please do reach out directly to them. And what they'll do straight away is loop in me and my team here at Mimecast, and between the Shore and the Mimecast teams, we'll set up calls accordingly. Or if you don't have an account director at the moment from the Shore side, then please use the email address on your screen now, which is contactus@shore.com. And one of the Shore team will reach out to you to do exactly the same thing. So as a final note from me, thanks again for your time and attention. If anybody needs to drop off now, because I know we only scheduled this in 45 minutes, then please do feel free to do so. But if not, then Callum and I, as I said, we'll hang around for the next 15 minutes to take any questions from the audience.
Oops, so I have spotted a question in the chat. So will this help us reduce chances of being blacklisted when we're using third-party mailers and currently SBF? Yes. Having a Dmarc record active on your DNS records does improve deliverability. There are marketing benefits from Dmarc as well. So short answer is yes. Actually, no, so it's the opposite of that, actually. I read whitelisted, not blacklisted. So no, it has the opposite effect. It has a positive effect on your deliverability, not negative. My apologies, misreading that one.
No problem, Dan. And guys, feel free to either take yourselves off mute if you can and speak freely, or you can use the chat box as Dan has just done to drop a note over to myself and Callum, and we'll answer those questions happily. Okay, well, it sounds like there aren't any further questions from the audience, so I'll close the session now. But of course, if anything does pop to mind as soon as you jump off the call that you wish that you'd asked or that you wanted a little bit more information on, then please do follow the instructions on the screen. Either drop a note over to your Shore account director or a note over to contact@shore.com. Between Mimecast and Shore, we will be contacting everybody that attended to follow up and get your feedback and, of course, answer any questions that you have. So please do look out for communications from the Shore team on that shortly. But without further ado, thanks so much for your time and attention today. We really enjoyed speaking with you, and hopefully we can speak with you all again soon.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks very much to the audience. Thanks again, Callum.
Thank you.